Susanna Colloredo.
Susanna Colloredo.
Susanna is my big sister.
I am very proud to have been able to nominate Susanna Colloredo.
What she's done for this community and so many other communities is really remarkable.
Susanna has lived her life with a strong love of the land. Her passion for land conservation and preservation seems to have its roots in a childhood spent among farms, fields, and animals, and also in parents who instilled in her both a love of riding and a responsibility to give back to her community.
My father and I would hack to all the meets, so we would get up at 4:30 in the morning and we'd be hacking in the dark, and we'd go to Rowley and Topsfield and Ipswich, and it was just a wonderful part of my childhood that I really remember, because the sun would rise, the mist would be rising, and the two of us would be trying to get there on time. And
what a great bonding experience for you and your father every
it's
morning.
Wonderful.
Oh,
yeah, it's part of what I really remember about, him. And my mother was very involved with what went on in downtown Hamilton. And so if anybody in town didn't have something, she was sure that she was going to help them get it. One day we came home from school and she was carrying my bureau out and putting it in the car because somebody in Hamilton didn't have a bureau.
After marrying and living away with her husband and 3 young children, she longed for her home and returned to Hamilton in the 1970s to raise her family.
When I came back because I wanted to have my children maybe have the same kind of childhood that we'd had.
Susanna's oldest son, Franz, reflects on his mother and the qualities that have helped her make such an impact in land conservation.
So I was born when my mother was 22. She started the mothering thing very early in life, and she attacked it like she attacks everything else, with amazing enthusiasm, not always with full knowledge of what was ahead, but certainly with great energy. She is still telling me what to do. And she likes to tell other people what to do on my behalf, not only my children, but in some of the activities that I'm involved in. I was the chair of the board of Mass Audubon for a number of years, and if my mother didn't think I was sufficiently attentive to some issue, she would call up Laura Johnson, who was the CEO of Mass Audubon, and tell her what to do. I'm currently the captain of the Myopia Polo, the local polo club here, and my mother will see some infraction or something that she doesn't like taking place, and she will intervene and say, I'm the mother of the captain of Myopia Polo, and set things straight.
Her daughter Annie took to riding as well and learned how to care for the trails and land that she so appreciated.
My thoughts about what to say about my mom on the occasion of this award began, appropriately enough, on the back of my horse while hacking through my neighbor's woods and high mowing. And yes, I did ask permission to ride on their land. And yes, I am careful to ride around the hayfields and stick to the dry season. Our family spent a lot of time together, either on horses or on skis. The joy of being out in the woods came first, and the care was learned over time. We hacked to the Myopia schooling field and to Patton's, and all this time on horseback with family fostered the care and concern and connection with the land that my mom so loved. As a teenager, the riding grew faster paced with hunting and races with my brothers and Bradley Palmer, and so too grew the idea of stewardship. I helped my mom with her complicated system of clotheslines, tying off fences to keep riders off the soft earth of spring. While it was a drag to be lugging up our horses on the dirt roads, I knew better than to incur the wrath of my mother by skirting those clotheslines. If she saw hoof prints at those fences, well, you knew you'd crossed the line. I began to realize the benefits of her care. The footing held up better throughout the summer and fall, and even over the years. Delayed gratification resulted in long-term benefit. Each new member of our community was an occasion for a party at our house. Not only did my mom want to meet the neighbor and welcome them and learn about their interests, but she also wanted to have a little chat about easements. My mom has underscored the value of open space, and open space is valued by being out in it. We care for what we love. My mom inspires me to do more at every age. She instilled more than a land ethic, but also an ethic of participation. Show up, speak up. care in a big way and be kind along the way.
Her other son, Rudolph, had a different riding experience, but looks back fondly on his time with his mother and what riding with her taught him.
As you know, I come from a family of a lot of very enthusiastic riders. I wasn't one of them. I was the reluctant rider. And one of the ways my reluctance would come up pretty much every week is that when Mom said we would be going out for a ride on Saturday, I would have to know where we were going to go riding and how long this would take. So Mom would sometimes just say we were going to be going out into Bradley Palmer Park or out into Willowdale or over to the Audubon. But sometimes she would be a little more precise. She would talk about where we were going to go to the race course, or we're going to go over by Turkey Brook, or we're going to go out through Colloredo-Mansfeld, or we would be going by Nancy's Corner. And it was a lot to keep straight. And over time, Mom could make it a little clearer by telling me about the disaster that happened to me the previous time we had been to a certain place, like my pony refusing to go over the brook, or my pony taking off in the field, or my pony cutting under a chain and scraping me off the pony's back. And little by little, I got to know the countryside. But I also have to say that little by little, all of these places really sort of stuck in my mind and captured my imagination. And riding with Mom in Hamilton and hearing all of these places, you just had the feeling that there was so much history and so many stories and people. And to go out into the countryside was to enter into this place of legends. And it just made it seem like it was a bigger and more open and wonderful place to be.
Susanna was happy to be back in Hamilton. Upon returning home, however, she noticed that the land she loved had changed while she was gone.
There were snowmobiles and motorcycles all over the park, all over the fields. Trails were being closed off. Chains were going up. So then I called my neighbor, Freddie Winthrop, and he was my kindergarten classmate. And I said, what the hell has been going on here? How long have you been back? Something must have happened under your watch. And all he said was, stop whining at me and get involved in the town.
After speaking with Freddie, Susanna was inspired to get involved and began serving locally on the Hamilton Conservation Commission. Ann Getchell, a friend of Susanna's who has worked with her on a number of projects, noted, "It took someone like Susanna to understand and communicate a realistic vision of how to keep Hamilton Hamilton." She worked collaboratively to protect the wetlands and support the groundwater protection bylaw.
She's just an amazing activist, and she's done that here in Hamilton for 40 years. She, in the 70s, was on the Conservation Commission, and under her participation and then leadership, she really preserved the rural character of Hamilton.
In the 1970s, the Conservation Commission was a hand-picked commission by Susanna. As I recall, under her leadership, expanded its realm of authority and ultimately prepared the first open space plan for the town.
After her 8 years of service with the Conservation Commission, she continued her efforts to make an impact in other ways.
She's formed organizations like the Essex Trail Association, which has protected open space but also provided access through the open space that we have and some of the private properties as well.
The Trail Association came about in 1982 because I then had been riding enough. And I then saw that they were all, a lot of them were being abused and closed. And I didn't have open to me the paths that I'd been on as a child.
They closed them because they're being abused and
yeah.
neglected, yeah.
So I somehow had learned in my travels that there were other groups like this who did this kind of work. There was a group in the Brandywine Valley of Pennsylvania. They were carriage people and hunting people. And then there was a group, I think, in Millbrook, New York. And so I knew there was a model somewhere and that this had been done. So by then, I had started to work with the trustees of reservations. And so they were all about protecting land. So I thought, I can't protect all this land. This is hopeless. This is beyond me. But maybe I can do the linking trails. Just keep the network open. So I recruited my neighbor, Ann Getchell, Freddie's oldest sister, and I said, we got to do something about this, and I can't do it by myself. So we had a meeting of 7 towns at my home. Boxford and West Newbury advised us, and they were incredibly important because they'd been in business long enough to know what was going to work and what wasn't going to work.
In 1982, Susanna created the Essex County Trail Association, which protects access to over 450 miles of trails, and led the organization for a number of years. Don Ciriali, a former president of the ECTA and friend of Susanna's, is a native New Yorker who found a home in the open land of Essex County. He has been inspired by her passion for maintaining the trails and preserving the land.
She said, Don, you have to go out and walk trails. We have to go inspect the trails. I wouldn't do it. I said, you think I'm going out there with the bugs, the mosquitoes, and all that other nonsense? I said, no way. But you're the president of the Trail Association. You have to walk the trails. So I gave in and we did it on horseback.
Susanna went on to serve on the board of directors for the Essex County Greenbelt and on the committee that developed a master plan for Appleton Farms.
She was instrumental in the kind of turnover of Appleton Farms to the trustees of reservations and the launch of a dairy farm there.
Joan had millions of animals, all sorts of animals. It was like being in the Magic Kingdom with her. And she had horses and dogs and goats and rabbits and chickens and cage birds and monkeys. She really loved that farm so much. And
I can see how that would be magical,
yeah,
especially
really,
for a child.
And I think that's where all my interest in farms now, which has become more and more my interest over everything else, and animals comes from, is my time spent with her.
Susanna's conservation efforts continued, and she worked with a coalition to save Sagamore Hill from development.
I know that the community at the Essex County Greenbelt Association, where she was a big force, has been a big force and continues to be. Its longtime leader, Ed Becker, who retired, wanted to pass on how fun it was to work with Susanna. She brings a clear passion, but she's looking at the bright side of life and, just a very funny person. And so it just makes it a very enjoyable to work with her.
As her good friend Lily Rice Shaw notes, Susanna believes in partnerships and collaborations. She is the best kind of advocate, listening to all sides, being a part of the conversation, giving the best counsel, and following through.
One of the things that I learned from Susanna was her leadership style. Susanna leads teams by positive reinforcement and multitude of thanks. You cannot do anything for Susanna without receiving copious amounts of thanks and gratefulness. And it's a wonderfully inspiring thing, and I try to remember it in my day-to-day activities and use that myself as frequently as I can.
She is the type of people, the type of person that we want in our community, being thoughtful about what our community stands for and thus what it needs to protect.
Susanna has been a tireless advocate for open space and the quality of life outside in the country.
People used to say, how can we get Susanna over for dinner? How can we have her come over for a cocktail party? And I would say, what you have to do is invite Susanna and tell her it's a meeting and that we have an important vote tonight and you've got to come and vote. She'd show up. She might smell like chickens, but she will show up.
Anyone who spent any time with Susanna immediately appreciates how direct, how smart, honest, and thoughtful Susanna is.
She taught me so many things. And through the years, I can only say thank you very much. And it has been an honor to know you. And I want to thank you for being a friend. And if I was going to have a party, I would invite only you.
We hope that you enjoy this evening that's especially just for you, Susanna. You've done so much for this community, and we love you.
In the world today, there are people that have the vision, the aspiration, and the desire to do good things. They do this without desire for recognition, rewards, notoriety, or any sort of financial reward. Susanna is one of these people.
If you're passionate about things, and somehow I was born with a lot of passion, I guess, then you just have to follow that and see where it takes you, you know?